So you've just found out that you're an HSP, a highly sensitive person. In this video, I will share two of my big aha moments that I had when I found out that I was an HSP and started to embrace this idea that there's a genetic trait that I have that makes my brain process things differently, that I tend to be overstimulated more quickly than others, that I have a difficult time with noises or just any kind of heightened things around me. And looking at my life through this review, right? Elaine Aron, in her book, The Highly Sensitive Person, and the workbook with it, she suggests that you should look back on your life and look at especially the challenging moments in your life and view them now from the viewpoint of being a highly sensitive. And at first I kind of dismissed this, section of the workbook. I was like, how important can it be? But then it's like, as I was washing dishes or as I was driving, my mind was kind of wandering back to this question. And things just kept surfacing, to me. Just simple things like, oh, that's why I spent most of my high school years being in the library during lunch rather than in the lunchroom, right? Just little things, but also bigger things. And the two biggest aha moments that I had about this, I wanted to share today. One of them is about relationships. If you feel any kind of, oh my gosh, I suck at relationship. I'm in one relationship after another. I keep picking the right guy or the same guy, the wrong kind of guy for me. Then listen to the first one. The second one is more about generational lines and realizing how much I'm impacted as a highly sensitive, how much I'm impacted as this little 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 5-year-old around parents who didn't know that I'm highly sensitive, and how much I was feeling their pain and how much that really cleared up for me later when I was looking at making sense of my life. So let's go straight into it. Enjoy. So here are my two insights of what I have learned looking at my life through the lens of being highly sensitive. The first one is about relationships. I'm in a process of writing a book, and it's going to be talking about the 15 most significant relationships. Yes, the 15 most significant boyfriend-girlfriend relationships that I have had. Some of these 15 were very brief, or I just count them as connection. We might have not been, together technically. But that wasn't even all of the men that I had some kind of connection with, right? So over the span of 25 years, this is how many different connections I have made. This is how desperately I was looking for love. And really what I have gained through that is just this bigger, deeper understanding of who I am, the love I am, and the love that I'm looking for. But through the lens of being HSP, I could give myself a whole lot more grace, because it is very easy to slip into this mindset of, I've messed up my life. The biggest thing I wanted in my life is to have a man by my side, having a family together. That was my biggest wish. And it hasn't happened. I'm 41. I'm a single mom with a 5-year-old. And so it's very easy to look back at going, oh my gosh, I've just messed up my life. There were so many men where I should have known right from the beginning they weren't right for me. What was I doing? But looking through the eyes of being highly sensitive, I'm like, of course. It was my life path just to figure out all the things that don't fit with me. I deeply process, right? I needed to figure out all the things that I did not want, all the things that did not fit with me. And through every relationship, I remember, and this is written in my journal, I should really figure out which date it was exactly, but I remember writing down that one of the biggest things that I wanted in life was to experience love, to experience the depth and breadth and variety and just amazingness of love. Love in all its different shades. And oh my gosh, have I done that? The universe has certainly delivered, because there are so many different types of love, and all these different men I have loved differently, right? There's some that are very significant. There were 3 very significant relationships, in my life, who I can see as like a soulmate type of connection, and yet it still wasn't the right one to be with me, to live their life with me, right? His life with me. But looking through this lens of being highly sensitive, I can understand why. And I can understand that I'm doing fine tuning. I want an extraordinary relationship. And I don't care if I'm going to have to wait a bit longer in order to get there. I do not settle for mediocre, for a connection that I'm not ready for. I wasn't ready for the kind of connection that I'm seeking. I had some work to do, some healing to do, some understanding of myself to do. And that really brings me to the second biggest insight, introspection that I had, and that was about my childhood. For so long, I saw myself as, well, let's start here. I had an incredible childhood. When I think back on my childhood, it was beautiful. I remember all these incredible moments. I grew up in Germany, in the countryside, right? There were so many, I had my grandparents right next to me at my dad's house. Sure, my parents got divorced when I was 5 and my dad remarried, but that actually brought in more joy because my stepmom had a few kids, and together we were 6 kids every other weekend, which was incredible, right? I don't remember it as overstimulating. I remember it as interesting. But I did have that tendency of just remembering the best moments. But yes, overall, my childhood was incredible. It was nurturing. Both of my parents are very loving, very nurturing. I don't think I was ever lacking in any of that. So it confused me, right? In my late teenage years, early 20s, when I was starting to get into healing work, into, healing past traumas, I was like, well, I don't really have any trauma, right? And once again, I felt out of place. I felt like I didn't belong because I wasn't one of these people who had a great childhood and now is living just an amazing life, right? Who's like, okay, going through college, picking a career, starting their life path, they're doing fantastic. I definitely did not belong to that group because I was utterly lost in what I wanted to do with my life. And the other ones were, people who were talking about their trauma, deep trauma in their childhood. And of course, now they were going on their healing path of healing this trauma from their life. And I was like, well, I didn't have any deep trauma. And so I almost felt a bit ashamed for feeling so out of place and for feeling so broken. It's like I didn't have a reason. Christine, you don't have a reason. You don't have a reason to feel so broken. You don't have a reason to feel sad or depressed. You don't have a reason to be so lost in your life. Your sisters don't feel that, right? The people around you don't. Your friends in college, they are not lost. They're on their life path. What's wrong with you? And so I felt very out of place because I had this deeply nurturing childhood, and yet I felt all these feelings. So once I found out that there is such a thing as a highly sensitive trait, a genetic trait, a trait that makes my brain process things differently, feel emotions more deeply, and have that tendency towards feeling out of place, misunderstood, I could understand that on a whole different level. It's like my trauma did not come from my parents or how they treated me. The trauma came from how I perceived it, right? The trauma came from me not being deeply understood for the way that I think and the way that I process things. And even more deeply than that, which was the biggest aha moment for me, is I felt my parents' pain. It's like when I was 5 and my parents went through a divorce, they were younger than I am now, so they had less life experience. They had kids earlier on than I did, so they had not had the chance for any kind of self-discovery, for understanding, for healing their trauma. And both of my parents have quite a bit of emotional trauma. Once again, their parents weren't abusive in any way, but they had a lot of childhood trauma. And then of course what they were going through in that life stage while I was 5, they were going through this lack of love, this especially my dad, right? Huge perception of rejection, abandonment. Oh my gosh, those were like the 2 biggest things I've been working on for years now. It's like, this is where it came from. The divorce for my dad brought up this big wound of rejection and abandonment that he had already felt in his childhood, in his teenage years. So now I understand it. It wasn't even my own trauma, my own emotions. I picked up on my parents' emotions, on my parents' trauma. And I feel like this happens so much more often than we think it does. And maybe it even resonates with you. For me, it was definitely a huge understanding, a huge weight lifted, because I don't know, I was owning it so much before that, and I just couldn't figure it out. It's like I didn't have that kind of trauma. Why do I feel this trauma so deep within me? That's like, oh, it's not mine. It's not mine. That's when you hear of generational line, right? Of tribal lines, of just healing all this trauma that's been passed on to us for generations. And I would say it's about time to heal. It's about time. And we highly sensitives, oh my gosh, we are here to do this work. We're here to do this work, especially for ourselves and especially for our kids. Because even though I don't think that my son is highly sensitive, I still can see how sensitive he is to me, to my emotions, to my reactions, to my way of thinking. And I definitely don't want to pass on any kind of trauma from me, from my generational line onto him. I know if you've watched this all the way until now, you are aligned with this. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited that you're on this path. Leave me a comment below. Let me know where you are in your life right now. And check out my website. Check out the membership that I just put together. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this membership growing. It'll be just a sanctuary for HSPs. It'll be clarity. It'll be understanding. I named it Finding Back to You, because that is what it's going to be about. That is what it's about, is finding back to you. Because we grew up highly sensitive and then realized very quickly, oh my gosh, I'm not accepted for who I am. I'm too emotional. I'm too intense. I'm too different. I need to be different. I need to mask myself. I need to behave the way that other people want me to, so that I get their understanding and their love. And so we've piled on all these masks and layers over so many years. And it's about time that we clear off these layers one by one and we find back to who we were born to be. So check that out. Links are below. I'm so excited that you're here. Oh my gosh, you're at the beginning of everything. This is your life and it's beautiful.